It's that time of the year again when the Easter Bunny comes to pay us a visit. Now, we try and restrain ourselves from indulging in all those glorious treats that the bunny brings us, but usually we end up succumbing and feeling that we have fallen off the wagon. We once again return to our previous dietary behaviors, giving up with our weight loss attempts. Hi, I'm Mark from diabetesdietguide.com, where we offer programs and consultancy services for people that want to take control of their glucose levels and live healthier lives. If you haven't done so, head over to the website diabetesdietguide.com, where you can get a bunch of free information all about managing diabetes and living healthier. Now today, after the Easter Bunny's visit, it got me thinking about some common weight loss mistakes that many people make. In fact, you're probably making them if you're watching this video. So we're going to go over the top 5 mistakes that you're probably making with regards to your weight loss attempts. So let's dive right in. Number 1, how you're eating fruit and vegetables. Now you might be surprised to see fruit and vegetables on this list. Usually we're telling people who want to lose weight to eat more of these foods. And you're right, and we do. So why are they on the list? It's not the fruit and vegetables themselves. They are actually low calorie foods and they do help you lose weight. But I come across so many people who eat these foods on top of their normal dietary intake. So they think that because they're eating these foods, it's going to lead to automatic weight loss, when that's not the case, because actually what they've done is probably increase their calories, because now they're having the additional calories, even though in small amounts, from the vegetables and fruit on top of what they were normally eating. When the idea is that the fruit and vegetables replace the more calorific foods in your diet. So they're replacing things like the meat and the starch and some of the dairy foods, and also those dessert-based, treat-based foods like crisps and biscuits and cakes. So the idea is that you actually reduce those types of foods and replace them with the less calorific foods like fruit and vegetables, as opposed to just adding them on to the dinner that you're already eating. And actually, I've just thought of another one on top of that, so we can add another bonus one in, is that you think, or not necessarily you think, but a lot of my patients think, because they've added in some vegetables, they might have chopped an onion into their spaghetti bolognese, that they've now got a free pass to eat as much meat and starch and pasta as they want. When that's not the case, and really, if onion is the only vegetable in your meal, you can see how the calories are going to start to add up, because that's not going to be enough to offset the calorific intake or the calorie intake that you're eating. So you really need to be replacing some of the foods that you're already eating with the lower calorie alternatives. Number 2, not exercising. Now this is a pretty obvious one, and most people in their heart of hearts know whether or not they're doing enough exercise. But actually, this is an important point, because when you exercise, you actually burn up energy. So if you're burning up energy, one, it then gives you a bigger margin of error with your diet. In other words, you can eat more and get away with it. So the diet becomes much more sustainable because you're not always having to restrict yourself. So you can indulge yourself every now and again without having to worry about the impact it's going to have on your weight, because you're just burning up the energy. But also the type of exercise that you're doing. The amount of times people talk to me about the fact that they do exercise, they're always on the go, they're always busy, and then you get their iPhone or their Android or whatever phones they use, there are others available, and you look at their step count. Granted, they're not going to have their phone on them all the time, but you look at the step count and it's about 1,500 steps on average for the past 6 months. Now to put that in perspective, to lose weight just from exercise, you need to be doing around 15,000 steps a day, and their average is around 1,500, 2,000 a day. They are sedentary people, but they feel busy, but they're not exercising. And adding on to the back of that, really, when we're talking about exercise and making significant differences to your weight, you probably need to be getting your heart rate up quite regularly. So actually pushing yourself a little bit, obviously in the context of what's safe for you. If you can't do that, then unfortunately you have to do it the long way round, which is where you have to spend a lot of time on the move, because as intensity comes down and you can't get the heart rate up, then you have to do it for a lot longer. Of course, you can tag on dietary changes to this to help move the weight, but ultimately exercise and physical activity is, one, going to make your diet much more sustainable, and 2, keep the weight loss coming. Number 3, not being consistent. Again, this is another classic mistake people make. They try a certain dietary approach, it's not working after 2 weeks, so they quit, and then they try something else, and then they try that for a couple of weeks or a month and it doesn't work, and then they quit that and try something else, and round we go. And essentially you get locked into this persistent cycle of 1 step forward, 2 steps back, when actually if you just stuck with it, you start to take small steps forward until you get some momentum and you start to see a change. In fact, the biggest indicator of whether or not someone will lose weight is actually consistency. Can you stick with the diet? And that's the biggest barrier that people have when it comes to their weight loss efforts. Even if you've had some success and maybe you're 6 months into the diet, you hit a plateau, which is inevitably going to happen. You take that as negative feedback, you get down on yourself and you quit the diet and go back to your previous behaviors, put the weight back on, usually with interest. When actually what that point should be a time to reflect, re-examine what you're doing, and actually not taking it so personally and trying to find ways to push on. It might be that you need to find ways to create more of a calorie deficit or get more active. And actually, in reality, weight is never just in a downward trajectory. It's a bit more up and down. So you'll find over the course of your weight loss journey, you will see some variation. So really what we're looking at is the trend over time. So you might have gained a few pounds 1 month or 1 week. Don't take it to heart, because if you stick with what you're doing and you're consistent, you'll find over time the results will come. Number 4, not appreciating it's an average. So what do I mean by it's an average? This is a common mistake I see, is that people will just focus on the day-to-day, and it's important to think short-term and long-term, so I get that. But just because you were good Monday to Thursday, it doesn't give you a green light to do whatever you want with your diet over the weekend. So because all of it feeds into the overall weight at the end of the day. So regardless of where you have the calories, whether it's spread out evenly throughout the week or whether you have a big blowout, every behavior that you do from a dietary and an exercise perspective, or in the case of weight gain, from an eating or dietary and not exercising perspective, it all goes onto the tally. And overall, at the end of the year, at the end of the month, that's what's going to dictate what your weight does. So what we're doing is we're aiming for a good average. So that allows you to have a bit of relaxation in the diet, and this is where exercise really helps, because you can afford the relaxation in the diet without it really having a big or significant impact onto your overall outcome. The less active you get, the less margin of error you have, so you have to be more strict. But ultimately, having a good average will allow you to keep the weight loss results coming without it being such a slog. Whereas the general thinking I find is that people don't think of it as an average, they think of it as they need to be 100% perfect, and when they're not, they get down on themselves and then they fall off the wagon, and again they lock themselves into that cycle of 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Number 5, leaving it until it's too late. Now this one's a bit of a morbid one, I appreciate, and to be honest, this is more just to highlight this point for people that might be on this path to try and take action today, because this is something I see all the time in my work in the NHS, in healthcare, where I have patients who refer to me for some specialist weight loss advice, usually in the context of diabetes as well, but they have neglected their lifestyle for so long, and their health and their exercise capability has become so bad that they are no longer able to get physically active. They might have joint problems, they might have cardio problems, they might have respiratory problems. They are physically incapable of literally walking from one end of the corridor to the other. So their calorie requirement is so much less compared to someone that's able to get out and burn up calories. So the only way they're going to lose weight is from more extreme methods, which are not sustainable for the long term. So they lock themselves into this cycle where the weight just keeps going up and up and up. And ultimately, it's very hard to help these people because ultimately they've left it too late. So what you need to do is act today. There is no time like the present to get on top of this, because eventually, as you get into your latter years, there can be a tipping point where it becomes very, very, very difficult to actually do anything about it, and it just locks you into this cycle. Now it might seem hard today, but I almost guarantee you it will only get harder as time goes by. So right now is the easiest it will ever be to lose the weight and actually change your lifestyle. Remember, it is a lifestyle change. So we're looking for healthy behaviors that you can stick to. Try not to do crash diets, try not to do fatty stuff. Start today how you mean to go on, because if you're only going to go on something for 3 months or 2 weeks or whatever it might be, and you have to change it in the future because you have to come off this diet, then that's not long-term change, because you're not putting in the behaviors and the dietary principles in place to give you the chance, or the best chance, of long-term success. And there you have it, guys. That's my top 5 mistakes that you're probably making with your weight loss attempts. Hope you found it useful. I've tried to make it a little bit different to the classic ones that you see, and these are just 5 that I've seen time and time again from my own experiences. Remember, if you found it useful, click subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you know when we publish videos, and give the video a thumbs up if you found it useful, because it really helps us out a lot. Remember to head over to the website, diabetesdietguide.com, if you're interested in improving your glucose control or learning a bit more about diet and healthy living. We've got it all there, free blogs, and if you need an extra helping hand, we do have consultancy services and programs there for you to show you step by step how to get on top of your diabetes, weight loss efforts, and generally living a healthier life. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later.